Hey everybody, my name is Kenny Diaz, and this is a breakdown of my level design assignment for FIEA that actually got me accepted into the program. And for this environment, I wanted to create a deep underground sort of cryogenic chamber laboratory. And for starters, I want to point out right here the one asset that I made for this to showcase my abilities as a 3D modeler, as an artist, just generally. I made these cryogenic tanks that surround the room. I modeled them single-handedly in Blender and then brought them into Substance Painter after UV unwrapping them and painted them accordingly. For the rest of the room, it was kit bashed together, and I wanted to give it a very lived-in feel while making it feel practical. That's why I have bay doors at the end of this room for trucks to come in and out to get all this stuff here, because you have to account for how did this stuff get into this room, you know? And I tried to provide several elements throughout the room to make this room, feel cold and oppressive. I've got the red lights going around the room that give a very ominous feeling. There's all the fog, both in terms of particle systems as well as the volumetric fog for the lights that make it obviously feel like there's a mist surrounding the room. And when going around this space here, you see this large glowing reactor that's sort of buzzing and breathing life into this room when you stare at it from here, almost as if it's the heart of the room itself pumping throughout it. Speaking of which, I tried to incorporate the structure of the environment into the actual narrative by making it so that these support structures and columns are actually large pipes that feed coolant into the reactor in the center. In the context of a video game or even a movie, this is where I really wanted my level to sort of feel like a cold open, where you don't really understand anything and are gathering knowledge from your environment before it opens up. Going down this hallway, we have a functional elevator, and this is where I communicate to the player that they're actually deep underground. I didn't just want to have it be insinuated at the end when it's revealed, but the elevator actually goes up. And typically you would infer that as, going up onto a higher floor, but with how far the elevator actually travels and all this steel cage and wiring and how suddenly it's no longer this sanitized space, I wanted to communicate that you are actually very deep underground. I threw a lot of litter and cracks across these hallways so it didn't seem so flat and boring. I included these large warehouse rooms as well because I didn't want it to just feel like a room and some hallways. I wanted to include large spaces that the player isn't allowed to access, because when you have large spaces that you aren't allowed to visit, it always gives off the feeling to the player that there is more to this space. There's a lot more that you can't access. And due to that lack of understanding of how much there is, including this corner that you aren't able to see around, it gives off to the player the feeling that there's just so much more that you just can't see at the moment. All these frosted walls and signs and destroyed doors, I really wanted to indicate that time has not been kind to this place. And you have this sort of framing right here as the player begins to exit the level, and sort of a glowing, nice look. The area really starts to open up for once. You get these beams poking through the volumetric lights, and I really wanted it to sort of feel less oppressive once you left the facility. I wanted the area to open up, and if I were to pinpoint on a chart the feelings that I wanted the player to feel throughout the level, then this would definitely be the high point in terms of calmness and openness and freedom for the player. I wanted to give that feeling here, and I think that this does an excellent job of doing that because it's such a stark contrast to the very dense, cramped area that you start off at. So that's it for my level, and thank you for watching.